We're getting close to practical advantage in quantum optimization. Companies interested in being leaders in their industry should already be considering how to harness this promised power with use cases that solve their business problems. But some companies want a better solution that's advantageous today. Learn more about quantum-inspired approaches already having a real-world impact in this episode of the Post-Quantum World. I'm your host, Konstantinos Karagiannis. I lead quantum computing services at Fidelity, where we're helping companies prepare for the benefits and threats of this exploding field. I hope you'll join each episode as we explore the technology and business impacts of this post-quantum era. Our guest today is the founder at Icosa Computing, Mert Esencan. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello, Konstantinos. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I found Icosa the same way I find a lot of companies that have any kind of connection to Chicago Quantum Exchange. It's pretty wild, all the developments happening out there. So it's always exciting to see new things coming. And in your case, you're part of the Duality program. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what that is for people who might not have heard.
Yeah, for sure. We're deeply connected to the Chicago ecosystem. Duality has been the catalyst for that. They're great. They're amazing. I just want to put that out there. So we actually met with Greg at Duality, Greg from Protivity. And then I think he reached out to us again. And that's why we're here now, I guess. I'm also familiar with your work, Konstantinos, in the financial domain. I think I read the paper you collaborated with Multiverse, the financial index tracking via quantum computing with cardinality constraints.
Yes, that's right. I paid Mert to say this, so yeah, that's cool. No, seriously, thank you.
But yeah, we are a part of Duality. It's an incubator we're part of. They are hosting 5 startups this year. I think they did the same last year. It's their second year doing this. That they are the only incubator, I believe, that are just doing quantum. That's just doing quantum startups. They're trying to push the Chicago ecosystem. And we're also part of another incubator, Creative Destruction Lab. This is the domain hub for them is in Toronto. Toronto is also trying to push the quantum ecosystem. And Creative Destruction Lab is older, but they have different streams. So they do have a quantum stream that has been going around for 5-6 years, I believe. Xanadu came out of them.
Yes, that's right. Oh.
In fact, Xanadu was there before they had the quantum stream. So they kind of, I guess, they showed that quantum is a valuable field to invest in. So after that, they started the quantum stream. It's been, I think, 5 or 6 years. They've been doing
lots of good quantum stuff came out of Canada. I mean, of course, University of Waterloo. The whole it's been quite a brain trust of quantum folks up there. So let's talk a little bit about your background. It's interesting because tell us a little how you got to quantum, and then I also want to spend a minute talking about the position you held right before you started Icosa. So feel free to put it in.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. I lived there for the first 18 years of my life. Great country, great city. Then I moved to California to go to Stanford. I did my undergrad and master's there. My undergrad was in physics and symbolic systems, which is mainly computer science and AI. But we look at like cognitive science, any information processing system, basically. And then I stayed in. Actually, I took a gap quarter, took a few months off before my master's. Traveled around a bit, mostly Europe. I think around that time I started reaching out to quantum computing companies. Realized that this is a very interesting field from the industry side as well. I was interested intellectually beforehand. I'm gonna get to that. Did my master's in management science and engineering, which is again a Stanford specific major, but mostly took financial engineering classes like algorithmic trading, investment science, optimization. During my master's, I started working for QC Ware as an intern. and after that, I moved on to Fidelity Investments. At the time, they did have a quantum team, but they hadn't hired anyone from outside, I guess. I think I was their first external hire, but there was a very good team already in place, focusing on quantum computing and frontier technologies at Fidelity. So this was FCAT, Fidelity Center for Applied Technologies. I loved my time there. It was great to be on the other side as well. So at QC Ware, we were the ones going to institutions and trying to convince them of our solutions. Whereas this time, cool quantum companies came to us. So we played around with a lot of toys. It was great. We actually have a published paper, not published, still on preprint, hopefully going to be published soon. We looked at IonQ and tried to do some machine learning on their system. So we did solve a toy problem using a few bits. Obviously, quantum is still early, but we did have some interesting results. So that paper can be found by just Googling me.
Yeah. I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes to that. And so you did, like you said, so you did your more traditional physics degree. And then after that, you decided to start working with a very practical approach at QC Ware, and then eventually as a developer. So you took that more pure science approach into the quantum development field. It's always interesting to see how people end up there, because some folks come in more from the computer science side and have to catch up on the physics after. So how did that... that was a very short period of time. We're talking about a year of your life, back to back there, 6 months, and then you did like both sides of it. So what was it like jumping in like that? How much did you learn at QC Ware? Because I'm assuming that's where you got your first real hands-on use of these machines.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I learned a ton. The team I work with was amazing. So I was directly working with Wim Dan Wam, who's I think at Microsoft now, Fabio Sanchez, and Peter McMahon. Obviously, they're all experts in their own domains. They all know a lot about quantum computing. And Peter Wim is also very academic, but Peter is fully academic now. I'm guessing he's at Cornell or Carnegie Mellon. I don't want to say the wrong university, but he's at a very prestigious university. I think it's Cornell, teaching or researching full time right now. And Fabio is still a close friend. I did learn a lot from them. We looked at different technologies, different tools. I did some internal research for them, which was great. I was very independent. It's basically like academic research, reading papers, trying to figure out something. We did have access to different quantum computers, so I got to use some interesting things.
What's interesting about them is that they do the research and develop approaches, and then they get some customer, and then after that, they turn it into sort of like a module that anyone could buy in the future, right? So that's kind of like repurposing and building a library of reusable approaches, right?
I guess, yeah.
So it's like academic meets commercial. So you were able to do these projects and like experiments, and then when you went to Fidelity, you were all of a sudden thrust into, okay, here we are, full financial applications and use cases. And what was that like? What did you get to work on that you're allowed to share in that period of time?
I can give you a bit of a background before that even. So I was already working on a startup idea similar to the one now, not exactly the same. It was a different idea, but a similar one. And I think that's also I talked to a few people, not directly to recruiters, but directly to my MDs beforehand. And I think that's what I guess made my case very interesting. They were like in the set, like we interviewed for 1 or 2 days, and immediately they were like, let's like join our team, and we'd like to work with you. That was the fastest process I've ever been in terms of applications. So and I was already working on like some optimization problems, doing trading on my own. At the same time, I was also applying for PhD programs. So I was talking to Oxford quite a bit. My current supervisor, we interviewed obviously beforehand. He was also interested in kind of what I was doing, taking these like pure research approaches and trading on my own, putting my money where I'm actually actively taking risk built on these like research ideas. I think he was also interested in that. So it all came together in some sense. With Fidelity, I had to like tell them up front that I was working on this idea. I had a PhD offer, and I was gonna go do the PhD. Actually, at the time, I didn't have the PhD offer, but I was like, hey, like I might go in like a few months to do my PhD, and they were very accommodating in that. They were very happy to. I was very happy to have this like comfort. So I'm glad, like it was a very great engagement for me. What I did at Fidelity was, obviously it's all confidential, but basically I was looking at a lot of finance problems and doing a lot of research, building internal tools, building IP, and also, again, trying out different hardware providers because we have the access to them. And doing some internal benchmarking. Testing these claims that most of the hardware providers make, right? And there's so many metrics around right now. There was quantum volume that's been used a lot, and it was criticized. I think IBM came up with a new metric a few months ago, maybe a year ago. Time flies now. I can't keep track, but
and then the big competitor was IonQ's algorithmic qubits, that other idea too.
Oh yeah, so that was around. So the algorithmic qubits, right? Because they didn't want to like anyway. Yeah, so it was there are a lot of metrics around. So someone had to like filter those and basically represent to people who don't really have the time or resources to go through all of this and build some internal presentations to show what works and what doesn't.
So when you went there, you had to give them some disclosure before you started, and I'm assuming there were all these agreements to what IP is going to be yours because you have other things you're working on personally, and then what IP will be theirs, and then you had to detangle that.
In the end, that was a process. It took some time to like get the agreements in place. But again, I mean, it ended out that we didn't pursue that idea anyway, so that company didn't go through, and we started from scratch actually. So
for Icosa,
I guess it wasn't really necessary to do those in place.
So what you went through like a year and a half ago, that was what a lot of people are going to be going through soon, because Fidelity was a little ahead of the curve, right? In 2021, you said you were their first hire that was outside. That was common. And that's starting to happen now in some smaller companies. A lot of people are going to be the first quantum hire at a company. So they're going to go through that same experience of like, what are they working on their own? What are they working on the side? So that was a lot of, on the ground training for solving financial problems. And then now with Icosa, which is what we'll talk about next, you're actually going to be developing these for customers and helping financial institutions with financial problems. So I guess you want to tell us a little bit about how you started that and the kinds of projects you're working on initially there?
Yeah, for sure. We are already developing, actually. So we're not developing, we're in production now. We are working in production level, taking trade risk for clients. So it's hard. Development is really fun. You can bounce ideas around, and in production things always break. So that was a transition we had to learn the hard way. Obviously, our experience, like our team's experience, helped a lot because we did go through from various projects from development to production. But as a startup where you have everything in stake, so it was a fun experience. But yeah, so again, I've been playing around with like finance ideas using quantum computing, reading a lot of papers, and then I started trading on my own. I realized that this is an interesting opportunity. Then my advisor at the time, now he's a business partner, he's leading all technical efforts at Icosa, but my advisor and personal mentor for 10 years at the time, David, told me that it's better to scale up, and yes, you're trading on your own, but this little capital means nothing to financial institutions. So you gotta scale up and convince others and yourself that this is a valid method. So we did that. We did 2 POCs. We traded $1 million for a bit, and then $200,000 for a longer period with 2 different customers, 1 mutual fund, 1 hedge fund. And then after that, we were convinced that this is a valid strategy and we can build a company around this. But again, not the same idea. This was just a POC. So we took a step back. We realized that we don't want to be a hedge fund. We just want to build optimization products. We don't want to create strategies for traders. We want to solve the biggest optimization problems in the world. So that was our defining motto. And that's how we created Icosa, and now we are exactly doing that, trying to apply very large combinatorial optimization problem solving to real markets.
Okay, and let's look a little bit at the approach. What kind of machines are you using right now actively to do this?
Yeah, so there are a few things. First of all, it's better to do everything in-house because we can control it. It's not a black box, and it's cheap or nearly free, right? Because we're getting a lot of credits from cloud providers. They're very friendly to startups, so they're giving like hundreds of thousands of dollars to just build on their system. They're not giving them as cash, but they're giving credits in their servers
to run shots or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, we're not exactly using Bracket right now. So when you said shots, I immediately thought about that. Because Bracket hosts a wide range of different providers, but they're nearly all gate based, and they also have D-Wave, but D-Wave only offers the quantum processing unit, the GPU. And that is not scalable for our needs. Again, our motto is to solve the largest problems. We believe that quantum is going to get there at some point. It might be gate-based, as again, like gate-based is going to be the mainstream. That's where the main research is going on, and it's more universal. Again, there's theories that like annealing. Actually, this is proven, I think, theoretically, that annealing is also universal quantum computing, but it's not universal in the sense that it's not practically universal. Whereas gate-based, you can just program it in any way you want. And we do believe like maybe QA can be upgraded or new algorithms can come up, but gate-based quantum computing will be used for large-scale optimization problems. And we're betting we're betting on that. We're bullish on quantum. But right now, we're using what we can. And there are many ways to do large optimization problems. One is, again, using a distributed system that you host your own algorithm. You write something up and use one of the mainstream algorithms, right? There's so many. It's parallel tampering, annealing, simulated quantum annealing. I mean, many software ones. I think Azure hosts a bunch of these. There's Monte Carlo as well. We also, I was going to say,
so if you want to get to like what you're using, because like, for example, the paper you referenced before that we did, we were using D-Wave's hybrid solver, which, as you pointed out, we couldn't get from the cloud. We had to go straight to D-Wave for, because that's the only way you can access that environment. So I just was interested.
For example, we've been having like a conversation with D-Wave. I used their system many times. Like they were nice enough to give me access to their system for free, and we did trial periods. And again, we are, as Icosa, we're also working with them, and we might actually start working with them at a more robust level, depending on again our needs. So your question is, what do we use? I think that's what defines us. We use what we need, and we use what's best for that day or that problem. I say day because we're actively trading daily right now. So we do daily optimizations, daily trades. And depending on market conditions, you might need something that is very, very, very large. So you could solve like a easy small problem, right? With like maybe just with your laptop, but you could also solve. You can't solve a very hard small problem. You might want to use a large optimizer, and then we go on to these like other providers, right? And then we choose to use some other provider. What we're also excited about is the specific hardware that's coming out. That's not quantum. People use many different terms for this. I call them physics enhanced, but I don't think it's caught on. People use quantum inspired.
I was going to say quantum inspired. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you wanted to talk a little bit about quantum inspired, but sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a theoretical physicist, I can't say quantum inspired because it's not quantum mechanical. There's nothing quantum mechanical going on, or there's no inspiration from like quantum mechanics that defines these devices.
Yeah, it feels like there's an inspiration from the software that's used on a quantum device or something. Like
exactly,
it's separated somewhat. Yeah.
Well, simulated annealing came, I think, in the 80s or something, and quantum annealing came in early 2000s or late 1900s. So actually, simulated annealing came before quantum annealing, like the Metropolis-Hastings algorithm. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so but we can. I mean, it's legitimate to say quantum inspired because we see this trend in industry where people came up with like quantum computing tools that can efficiently, or I guess the promise is that they can efficiently solve large discrete combinatorial optimization problems. Mm-hmm. And then this inspired many other providers to build specific chips to solve these problems. So I guess quantum inspired in that sense makes sense.
Quantum industry inspired.
Yeah, like yeah. Exactly. So we're excited to use those chips. So we do have some access to those as well. Mostly come from Japanese providers. I can't name which one we're using, but some names to throw around are Hitachi, Fujitsu, Enishi, Toshiba. So there are a few, right?
Yeah.
And these
Toshiba,
are actually
the digital annealer. I mean, they've made pretty decent news with that for a while now. Their approach.
Exactly. So that chip can they claim to be solving 100,000 all told connected linear variables. And what we've seen in research mostly like doesn't go up to maybe 2,000, 3,000, maybe 5,000. D-Wave claim they can do up to 20,000. I did test their device; it's around that ballpark. I mean, I'm throwing numbers around, but just to like clarify, these are all told connected graphs. So when I say like 20,000, there are 20,000 nodes in this graphs, and there's 20,000 choose two edges. So that's like, I think like a big number. So there are many variables that we're putting into these systems. So it's not just 20,000 variables. There's also the edges.
Yeah, it's a bigger sounding number. Yeah.
Yeah, and 100,000 is very large. So, and then obviously, like you have 2 to the 100,000 choices. That's like a very large number, unimaginably large. Obviously, you don't explore the whole solution space, right? You can't. There's not enough time in the universe. But you do some smart thing, like you look at the energy landscape, you do some parallel tampering or quantum annealing, or and then you try to identify the optimal solution. And the problem with these methods is that they're heuristical methods. They're not deterministic. And because we're looking at very, very large problems, there's no way to know if you reached a good solution. I'm not even saying global solution, right? People are looking at these things as, oh, have we reached a global solution, or are we trapped at local minima? This is like the big thing in industry.
It comes up every time. Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Exactly. But yes. For finance purposes, a good local solution is fine. You don't need to like the optimal global solution. So again, like a good local solution is fine for finance purposes, but there's no way to know if its solution is good. If you don't know the answer to the problem, there's no way to check if your solution is good enough. There are smart ways to look around, and this is coming up. I talked to a lot of researchers about this in Toronto 3 weeks ago at the CDL session. There are a few metrics to look at this, looking at like the distribution of your solutions. But again, if you're solving a very, very large problem, you don't even know if you reached a good solution or not. So why are we in finance, right? So I am asking myself a question. But why are we in finance? Because in finance, it's very easy to quantify success. Essentially, we're solving a very large optimization problems, right? So a lot of people come to us and ask, why are you not doing logistics, or why are you not doing drug discovery? And because optimization is a need in there as well, large scale optimization. The problem is at such an early stage as a startup, and the technology is also early stage, we need to quantify success continuously. We need to know if we're going the right path. And in finance, we see that immediately. If we do a mistake, it's not clear, it's not deterministic, but you can sense that you're going the right direction. You can quantify success. It gives you a probability measure that you're going on the right path. So in that way, we're solving large optimization problems. And if we're making profits in the market, then it means that, okay, we're reaching a good solution. Mm-hmm. So, I've been talking a lot.
No, that's a good point, because if you're making profit, you can get that final benchmark that what you're doing is worthwhile in the world. Because it is difficult to benchmark an advantage, right? It's difficult to prove that your way is the best way, period. But if you're getting some kind of advantage, that's why D-Wave throws around customer advantage, and I love that term, then they're seeing that this is the way to go. But right now, then, if they do reach this, they're getting advantage or profit from like we mentioned, quantum-inspired approach, right? Because what you're bringing to market currently is still, if I'm correct, still running on that other hardware, right? It's still running on, let's say, a digital needle or like TPUs or something like that.
Yeah. So there are ways to just directly use the QPU. So we could do that actually right now. We could reduce our problem. The ones that we're doing right now, the trades that we're doing, we can fit that into a QPU. It would leave us with less control, and it would lead to a white paper, or I don't know, something like that, an archive paper. We could say, we're at Icosa Computing, we partnered with D-Wave, and we used the QPU to do these trades, and we profited X amount, and amazing, there's quantum advantage. We did something using quantum, for sure, real quantum. We find those approaches a bit ad hoc. So it's like just for the sake of using quantum, you are using quantum. That's why we don't try to, like, our philosophy is that we're using the most capable provider or solver or approach that's out there. And D-Wave Hybrid is great. Again, it's a bit quantum inspired. It's not clear. It's because it's a black box, and as researchers, we don't like using black boxes. But as a black box, it performs well, but we don't know the internal workings, if it's quantum or not. It is hybrid. There's some sort of element of QPU in there. But yeah, so we're not trying to like publish or write white papers or provide workshops to our clients. We're just solving their problems. Usually the finance people, they don't care about how we solve the problem, as long as we solve the problem. And for hedge funds, it's even clearer. If you're making profits, okay, then great. If you're beating your benchmarks, they're saying, okay, we make already 40% with our method. You come to us, you claim this new technology, quantum, blah, 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 amazing. And then you trade and you make 50%, you add 10% their profits. That's all they care about. That's how hedge funds operate, especially the mid-range ones, the ones that we work with. Maybe the large scale ones are building for the future, and they want to try out this technology and create a team and like have workshops and be ready when quantum hits. But that's not our business approach. If we were doing that, we would be competing with, I think, 10 companies, and we don't want to do that.
So in some ways, you're following a paradigm that we've seen before. It's what the cloud workload models have been working on for a while. You're coming to the cloud with a problem. You're creating a workload, and in some ways, you don't really care what's running on the back end. You're buying instances for a while. You're paying. You're getting your results. You're happy, and you move on. If they upgrade those machines in a few weeks and you get better results for your money, so be it. One day, it might be that your same customers come back and they're going to get better answers. And then it was 100% quantum machine that you used that week, right? It's possible.
Exactly. We do care, by the way. Like, we care. That's our job. We care about what we use, and
you care.
The
sometimes the customer doesn't care. Yeah, exactly.
The customer doesn't care. Exactly. Maybe at a cocktail party, they tell their friends that they're using quantum computing, or they tell to future investors into their hedge fund that they're employing the best technology out there. They're doing frontier tech research. They're working with quantum computing providers. But in the end, what matters is if they made profits or not, or if they're solving a problem that they couldn't solve before. And we're seeing this trend where there's no way to do very large scale discrete optimization right now. If you use the mainstream, the best state of the art available solvers, publicly available, and again, these are not free, but they are publicly available. So it's not like an internal tool built at Goldman Sachs by like 100 best quants in the world, but it's something that we can pay and use, like Groby or Cplex, right? IBM Cplex. They can go up to 3,000, 4,000 variables at most, all toll connected, and provide decent results. And we don't even know, again, like, we can't solve these problems. The best way to benchmark these methods is to planted solutions where you know the solution beforehand, right? And you can compare. You can't solve like a 14,000 linear all toll connect variable problem by brute force. But if you have an answer and create the problem from that answer, you know the answer a priori, you go to the solver and you can benchmark. And we're seeing where, I'm not sure exactly about the numbers. Let's be optimistic. Let's say 10,000, about 10,000 variables. Discrete optimization doesn't work on current state of the art optimizers. So there's definitely a need to do large scale. Well, there's definitely no way to do it right now unless you're using these special techniques that are, quantum inspired. Right?
Yeah. and that's sort of what we talk about too with customers. It's like when we do a proof of concept for them, it's all about like, let's solve the biggest problem we can until we can just barely break the machine, bring it to its edge. And then there's extrapolation. That's just the way it is right now. Like, you're seeing that these machines can do these amazing things. And you know that next year, when they have so many more qubits or whatever, better fidelity, we're going to be able to hopefully explode this out and get some real advantage. And that's why we're all in this like gray area right now, where we're trying to eke out what we can out of the stack.
Exactly. Yeah. And even if you're not optimistic at all, right? Because there are always skeptics, and scientists usually are skeptics, right? Because there's no proof for like quantum annealing advantage theoretically. I don't think there is. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure there's a robust proof that quantum annealing can do discrete optimization better than a scalable quantum computing machine can do it better than any other approach.
Yeah, that's why D-Wave uses that language, customer advantage. That's why they use
exactly.
that.
We don't know yet, right? There are some quantum fluctuations happening at the beginning of the process, but it's not fully quantum mechanical throughout, right? Because you decohere immediately. The time scales are not large enough or small enough to finish the process in a quantum mechanical way, and entanglement doesn't persist. We don't know. But again, these approaches has again inspired us as researchers, as business owners, to look at a different domain in a different way. People have been doing continuous optimization for years, right? But there hasn't been much look at discrete optimization. It was always put under the rug as something that we can't do. It's a hard problem. It's NP hard. It's NP I don't know if it's NP complete. I want to say something wrong, but it's NP hard, and we're not gonna bother with it. It's not solvable. But now we can look at it in different. And now someone said, "Oh, quantum annealing can solve this efficiently," and then people started looking at, even just from an classical algorithmic perspective, looking at this problem from a different side. And that provided us with new insight. I think this happened in like history of science many times. Someone comes up with a new method and it might be futile. Maybe it doesn't work, but because of the promise, it inspires a lot of other researchers to look at the same problem, and the smartest people in the world look at this and they find ingenious ways to solve it. So that's what we are exploiting and using right now.
Yeah, that's
and we are also as researchers looking at the problem and trying to solve it.
Yeah, you described the history of fusion right there in a nutshell. Basically, still going on in parallel. Yeah, no, that's a great point, and this was very helpful. I think our listeners will enjoy learning more like this about quantum inspired, because let's face it, that's where we are right now. There's going to be a lot of quantum inspired things that pop up. Did you want to leave us with anything you want to share about your company and what your next plans are?
Yeah, so again, we are scaling up. Our team has expanded. Things are going well. We're making profits, looking at these methods, and it's great to see that something that like amazed me, I don't know, like a decade ago, is now actually is being used, or in some sense is being researched and can be put to use. So I don't know, when I first heard about quantum computers, I think it was David Deutsch's claim on it's an argument for the multiverse. How can you get exponential power if you're not like dividing your computer into multiple universes and then kind of doing some sort of parallel processing and getting an answer back, right?
His favorite 10 to, the famous 10 to the 500 quote that he has.
10 to the 500 quote, right?
Exactly. He's been a hero of mine for years, and if I had one dream guest for this podcast, it's him. Basically.
Yeah, he was actually my examiner a few months ago for my pre-thesis presentation at Oxford. We did host a podcast session with him as the Oxford Quantum Information Society. I can send the link as well.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He really is. He could talk about anything for hours. Exactly. Anything. Literally any topic.
Yeah, one of the smartest people on the planet, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, but seeing that, now we're seeing this trend where people are getting into the industry because it became an industry. But then a decade ago, there was no industry. So you have all of these people who got into this without any financial benefits, right? So when I was like looking at quantum computing and we started a society at Stanford, people were like, what are you doing? Just apply to like Goldman or McKinsey, and like, what are you doing with your life? So it's amazing to see that now people are looking at this from a fully practical perspective as well. And from the intellectual side, this satisfies me greatly. And I know that the team that we're building at Icosa shares a similar passion, and no matter what happens in the industry, we're gonna continue building products like this. So I'm very confident in our team and what we're building, and we're very excited for the future.
Yeah. Good luck, and I'm sure you'll do well in this particular incarnation of the multiverse, since we brought up David Deutsch. I'm
trying to increase the percentage of universes that we're successful at.
I hope it's high. Yeah, I hope it's really high. Thank you so much for coming on, and I really enjoyed this. So good luck.
Thank you, Konstantinos.
Now it's time for Coherence, the Quantum Executive Summary, where I take a moment to highlight some of the business impacts we discussed today, in case things got too nerdy at times. Let's recap. Icosa Computing is part of the Chicago Quantum Exchange Duality Incubator, as well as Creative Destruction Lab. Before Mert founded the company, he worked at QC Ware and Fidelity Investments, getting some first-hand knowledge of coding quantum use cases and testing hardware vendor claims of machine performance. Icosa started small with algorithmic approaches and expanded. They began with 2 POCs for customers, trading $1 million for a period, and then $200,000 for even longer to test their methods. Small money for financials, believe it or not, but big enough to prove the company was on to something. Now Icosa works on solving larger, real-world problems and they perform daily trades. To do this effectively in the NISQ era, they often use physics-enhanced or quantum-inspired devices. Digital annealers are a good example of such devices and have the ability to handle many thousands of variables. The goal for many financial problems is to find a good local instead of a global solution. And in such financial use cases, you can quickly quantify success, which is why Icosa prefers these problems to, say, physical logistics such as shipping or routing. The sizes of problems Icosa works on would not lend themselves to current NISQ machines, which is fine, as the company's business approach is not to show the art of the quantum possible with small POCs. Rather than reduce the problem sizes for experimentation and a proof of concept, Icosa instead keeps the problem size large and uses quantum-inspired hardware to solve the problems fully. It turns out most customers just want to have good results and don't really care what the approach is on the back end. That does it for this episode. Thanks to Mert Esencan for joining to discuss Icosa Computing. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to Protivity's The Post-Quantum World, and maybe leave a review to help others find us. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ConstantHacker. That's Constant with a K, Hacker. You'll find links there to what we're doing in quantum computing services at Protivity. You can also DM me questions or suggestions for what you'd like to hear on the show. For more information on our quantum services, check out Protivity.com or follow Protivity Tech on Twitter and LinkedIn. Until next time, be kind and stay quantum curious.